Alrighty. My name is Joe Bender. Some of you may know me as Stormgren, and this is Surviving a Network Upgrade. It's my presentation for Nauticon, so be kind. I'm going to try to leave some time for questions at the end, but just get us going, I guess. I have been doing computers, networking, and telecom in various aspects for about 10, 15 years. Worked for an insurance brokerage for 8 of those, and then decided, screw this, making money for other people. I'm going to go start my own consulting practice, doing a lot of this stuff. And one of the reasons for that, one of the reasons for this talk is that as I've been going, I found a lot of people who know TCP/IP, they know, Ethernet inside and out, but they come in and I get brought in, and this is where I make some of my paycheck, is past the point of the router, they don't know what to do. They don't know, they know what a T1 is, but they don't know how it's hooked up, they don't know where it's going, they don't know how to deal with the vendor, they don't know what to ask for. A lot of people get taken by this. But first and foremost, the number one issue that a lot of people run into, especially when dealing with their management, they'll be given this thing saying, the network's too slow, we need to go do something about it. Well, it's all well and good. The problem is that a lot of people just see that as, oh, we need to bump up the speed. That's fine. I'll sell, telcos will sell you anything that all day long that'll increase your actual bandwidth, but you may have other bottlenecks. So my point with doing any of this, before you get into any upgrades to survive, is understand the problem you're trying to solve. Understand where you're coming from, where you need to get to, and what the problems are. If there's a really good example of this is I had a site that had an application that was dragging that happened to be an internet accessible app, and they kept saying they want a T1 upgrade, and add another one. Turns out it wasn't the application at all, it was the, excuse me. It wasn't the application at all, it was the, network at all, it was the application. The application was doing nothing, it was poorly written code. Their T1 was virtually unused. So assuming that you've gotten through this stage and you've figured out that, hey, we really do need more bandwidth, or we do need to add these sites, or we've got this problem, start putting together a list of notes of what you need to do. Oh, am I being too quiet? All right, so assuming you've got this problem, you need to go to a vendor. Well, you need to know what to ask them, otherwise they're going to try to sell you something, and that something they're going to sell you is probably not what you want, but it's going to make them a lot of money. I do a lot of this. And a lot of times I find myself, it's like, oh, I'm talking them out of a sale. And what it is you need to put together exactly what you want. Do some research. Google is your friend. There's a website that I ran across recently, actually looking up some terms for this, to make sure I was going to give the right ones. It's bandwidth.com. It's the Bandipedia. Great reference. Covers a lot of things that you would need to know. So you put down your requirements. You say, I need this at this site, at these addresses. You put it all together and say, give me a proposal. This is a traditional RFP. Get into doing RFPs, but you should do one. And send it out to 2 or 3 companies. Now, and notice I'm saying 2 or 3 companies. Don't just find one source, whoever you're currently using. There's no reason you necessarily need to stay with them in this day and age, especially with the amount of money that they will charge you on new stuff. Let them know you're talking to other companies. Any company you talk to, let them know that you're talking to other companies. This tends to do really interesting things to the pricing. To the point where I had, at my last job, we had a bid between Sprint and a certain 3-letter telco that shifted names about 3 times in the last 6 years. And it looked like we were going with them, but it would look like we were going with Sprint because that's who we'd been with. Until we happened to mention this to the other carrier. Then you got to play them off against each other. And immediately, as soon as we did that, price dropped by half. They will do this. It is a cutthroat market. Just as a small note, I do resell services for small CLEC in Michigan. So if you're interested, shameless plug here. But no, seriously, these guys will charge you for everything they can charge you. Freebies are there, just like with if you've argued with Sprint or Verizon or T-Mobile about getting something off your bill or getting free text messaging, a lot of times you can get freebies out of these guys, especially when they screw up, which will happen. Because there's almost two inevitable truths here when dealing with upgrades and dealing with new orders and new everything and new services. The first is telcos lie. They will lie to you as long as the sun's up or the sun is down. They will sit there and promise you ridiculous things, including things they can't even provide to you. Good case in point, same upgrade with the former three-letter telco. They went and said, and this is going to get another point in a minute here, they were promising us a T3 within 3 weeks of contract sign. Now, anybody's ever put in a T3, which is a circuit provision over coax and usually requires fairly expensive facilities to deliver, knows that this is, even if the facilities are in the building, it is not something easily done unless you pay for it. And don't correct them on this. Say, oh, there's no way you can do that. Let them promise that to you and let them put it in writing. Because this is what happened. And this is also my other point, is know what your facilities are locally and at any place you're putting in service. Know what they are, because that can be proved to be the advantage. In this case, all TVs are provided over fiber these days. You don't see one in a building that's on copper. I mean, it's handed off to you on copper, but it has to come in on fiber provided into the building. We didn't have that. They were saying, at this building, we're going to give you one in 3 weeks. Well, we let this play out in 3 weeks, and they rejected it, saying, oh, well, AT&T says they can't do it, so it's not our fault. Well, yes, it is. You provided it in 3 weeks. And this is the point where you take your shoe off metaphorically, beat it on the table, and say, give me something for this. Well, while they were finishing out building out the fiber, I ended up with 8 T1s free, providing this bandwidth for the next 3 months. So the thing to remember is, and they will try to do this to you, is beat on you mercilessly and make you feel guilty for every single thing you ask for. You have to remember that you are their customer, not the other way around. You're paying them money for a good service. And you get a lot of concessions, especially if you're in the middle of the implementation phases of an upgrade project or any kind of project. If you're implementing it and you're only halfway through and they're missing their dates, they're not doing what they want to, get really loud and indignant and angry. They listen to this. A couple of points, but that, like I said, going back to my other point, understand, in terms of a lot of problems that I see is people not understanding where they are. And that is, your network should be fully documented. Every site that's getting something new, you should know about. You should know where they're physically located. If they're in another state, the best thing I ever did, I mailed a disposable camera to every single state that I was doing, that we were changing over circuits. And I said, see if you can get pictures of your phone closet for me, get pictures of where the phones come in, the DMARC, get pictures of your server room, and then mail them back to me. Then we had the department administrative assistant go out and develop them, and I could see it everywhere we were going and say, oh, wait, I don't see any more wiring here. I don't see certain things. So then we could, when I had contractors at the sites, I could say with knowledge, having never been there, what needed to be done. So, and then excuse me, and it also, do this weeks ahead of time. You should have your game plans nailed down long before any contractor or any provider actually sets foot into your building, if you can help it. Again, most projects that I get pulled into or come in on are because people don't think ahead. They said, oh, we're just going to do that, put this in, do this, plug it in, and we'll be done. It's not how it goes. Especially if you have to order something. Happens a lot. It's like, oh, wait, we can't change out this card, or this card isn't capable of interfacing with what we thought we were. If you don't know what your equipment is, you can't go forward either. And like I said, a lot of it is just really, really common sense stuff. Excuse me. A couple things you should generally know when you're ordering in a new circuit or terminating something. They will, And this is especially true when going through competitive carriers. And another thing about competitive carriers, especially large ones, small ones, it's usually just one guy who's doing all of this stuff. And in fact, there's one sitting in the back of the room right now. Hi, Paul. The large ones, it's a little bit different, especially when you're dealing with somebody like Sprint or MCI. Or I'm sorry, Verizon or Verizon Business, whatever they're deciding to call themselves this week. These guys got as large as they did because they tend to absorb companies. And this means there's a lot of miscommunication on their end. What you will typically have happen when you order a circuit, you'll have your local account rep, you'll have a local account technical person who's supposed to be baton waving the actual orders and putting it through their internal ordering systems, which, by the way, if I understand it, and having seen some screenshots, they suck as bad as you think they do. And then there's a whole bunch of divisions in the back end that they really don't tell you about. And then eventually you also have to deal with the local phone company if it doesn't happen to be them. I also don't recommend generally going through your large local carrier for a lot of this stuff. They tend to, again, they tend to try to treat it as one-stop shopping, and they're even worse to get information out of. But what will typically happen is you'll get something back saying, you'll get something known as a FOC date back, which stands for Firm Order Commitment. And what that means is, and that has absolutely nothing to do with the carrier you just ordered a circuit from. This has everything to do with the local telco, hopefully has a clue. That's when they're going to be able to get that circuit delivered. Or if they're going to reject it due to what they call facilities issues, usually because there's something that's not there or they claim they can't do it. That date does not mean that's when your circuit's going to be ready. That just means that there's probably going to be a T1 here around this date, and we're going to hand it over at about that point. And occasionally what will happen is that date will get mangled somewhere along the way. As I said, the large carriers tend to have several divisions. And you've usually got a local level division who actually places the order. You've got a mid-level division that actually, you have a mid-level division that goes and configures the circuit to the routers, the router configuration people, and then the turn-up people who may or may not be A, your local contact, or B, that router team, or C, a third party entirely. A lot of times things will get messed up internally. What they should be providing back to you is when that local loop is going to be delivered by the LEC. They get this date back from them. If they can't provide it, you should be running screaming because that's a basic piece of information. The date that they expect to have their work done. And then the date that you schedule and you pick this, don't let them shove it down your throats. They will try to do this and make it convenient for them, not for you. The date that you're actually going to turn the circuit up. The other thing that's important to this is that they're also going to start billing you the day that you've scheduled the circuit turn up if it completes. Most contracts are written this way. Don't let them try to bill you before you're ready to turn the circuit up. But you'll notice that all these little interconnected divisions, this is where stuff breaks. And the problem is you've got this big monolithic entity known as Verizon, or this big monolithic entity known as Sprint. And and that's the way they want you to see it, when in actuality it's the furthest possible thing from the truth. So get to know how the company's split up internally, especially if you're doing a large project. Learn their lingo. This has gotten me miles and miles. It's a little bit of social engineering. It's a little bit of just knowing, what environment you're dealing with is. Technologies that, and I could probably spend another 6 or 20 minutes on this, but a couple of things, other points that I wanted to